So the Grand Chess Tour is back. This is the third leg of 5. They're in Zagreb, Croatia. They're playing some rapid chess first. We've got 3 days of that, 3 rounds in each day, and then they move on to some blitz chess. Now I want to also show you a photo from the day. This is the field by the way, the players that are playing in this one. Some notable mentions. We've got Vishy Anand there, just coming off the back of playing in the Global Chess League. And then this photo here is why I love these Grand Chess Tour events. I mean, how much would you love to just be sat in that circle, right? Chilling with those guys, listening to them talk about chess. Really awesome stuff from those former world champions. And today we're looking at one of them, Vishy Anand, 53 years old, had an exceptional Global Chess League. Check out those games if you haven't done so already. They're on the channel, previous videos. And now he's back playing in round 1, and wait till you see the end of the day, the standings in the table. Just incredible. So let's flick to this game here. Okay, so this is really painful. Like I said, let's flick to this game here. Then I recorded an entire video, realizing only afterwards that I had the H file chopped off, plus the player names and clock times. I just had the wrong view in my streaming software, right? OBS Streamlabs. Horrendous start to the day, or finish to the day. So we'll try this one again. We're going to look at this game. It's Vishy versus Richie Rapport. Richie being a very strong Hungarian grandmaster, and he was second to Ding. So no slouch at all. We get e4 on the board from Vishy, c5 in response. These knights develop, and bishop b5, the Rossolimo variation. Now e6 played, you can play multiple moves there, d6, g6, and now Vishy goes for c3. And this is a sideline. You know, castles is main there. We see this one shattering the pawns sometimes. This is a kind of Alpine variation, or c3 Sicilian as it's known, but with the bishop already coming to b5. So d5 now from Richie. Common idea to break with this move, then bring the queen in when white's played c3 and there's no immediate knight c3. So castles is now played, bishop d7, rook e1, knight f6, all looks normal, and Vishy nudges back this bishop. Again, a common move you often see once white's castle, develop the rook, the bishop tucks back. You know, you're not going to take there very often once black's developed and can recapture with the bishop, no damaged pawn structure. So we get bishop d6 developing, now pawn d4, striking at the center. Richie decides to castle, we get pawn h3, and then he captures in the center. So the pawn recaptures, and what do we note here? Well, white's now playing with the isolated queen's pawn, or IQP for short, and this can be a weakness in the long term of the game, you know, especially if pieces start getting traded off. But in the short term, it does give attacking chances. You know, you've got 2 open files here, you've got outposts for minor pieces, and when there's pieces on the board, you can really start to attack. So knight e7 now played. Common manoeuvring idea, looking to blockade that pawn, also opens the bishop. We get knight c3, the queen slides across, and now this knight hops into the outpost and the bishop comes into c6. Vishy carries on developing, and now Richie, here on move 14, he goes wrong already. So what he should do here is capture on e5. Now it looks a bit counterintuitive, because you give up your bishops, and you repair the pawn structure for white all in one move. But the idea here is that you bring a rook to the d file, pick up a tempo on the queen, and then you get this monster d5 square for the knights. Also pick up a tempo on this bishop, and black should be doing okay, roughly level position when you run it with the engine. But bishop b4 was played, and probably Richie underestimated the power of this next move, because Vishy does not defend this knight. He goes pawn a3, encouraging the bishop to capture, pawn recaptures, and setting a deadly trap. Because if you capture this pawn with the queen, can you see the follow-up move for white here, which would end the game on the spot? So it's all about the queen being trapped a bit offside, and the move is knight to c4. You take away the escape square for the queen, you also cover the a3 pawn, and now the threat is rook c1, the queen's a goner. And if you look at all the kind of squares that queen has there, you'll realise no matter what black plays, the queen is dead. So the pawn's immune. Richie instead goes for bishop to a4. Not the best move. You can see the eval bar react. Rook ac8 immediately was apparently best. Now Richie's idea is that he's cleared the c-file with tempo by playing bishop a4. So after queen f3, he doesn't try and defend this pawn. He goes rook c8, counter-attacking on c3, but after Vishy captures here, the problem is you can't immediately recapture because the queen's on this knight. So what do we see? Well, knight e to d5 played, hits the bishop, it nudges back here, but now again, you can't take this pawn. Once again, you're running into these knight c4 tricks. The queen is hit, it can move away. Now, taking's not exactly best. The bishop recaptures on this one. But say you go queen f3, this is a sample line. And here, white emerges an exchanger. You know, this was the top engine line. So it's really good for white. So instead, we see rook b8, driving that queen away. And probably Richie expected queen to a6, something like this, and then an invasion. And black's getting active pieces. This is still a backwards pawn. Richie maybe thought, okay, good compensation here, although still white's better. But what we see in the game is this brilliant move from Vishy of knight to c4. And by the way, if you go knight c6, it's not so precise because bishop can capture, queen recaptures, and now the rook can invade to b2, or we've also got this one coming across, just not so precise. So knight c4, absolutely the best move. This queen now drops back, and we see this queen win a second pawn. Vishy's now 2 pawns to the good, where Richie's got everything to prove here. So he goes rook a8, attacking that queen. It slides back, he goes back with rook b8, now queen a6, and if you keep harassing the queen, it's just going to slide into d6 here. It's not getting trapped. So instead, bishop b5 played. The queen comes to d6 anyway. We see queen c8, dodging the exchange, pressuring this knight, but Anand insists with queen to c5. And now you can't really avoid that exchange in such a good way. So Richie captures, the pawn recaptures, and now he takes this one to stop that knight from hopping, becoming a monster. Bishop recaptures, rook fc8 and bishop f1. So although these pawns are doubled, there's still 2 extra pawns for Vishy, and look at these bishops just completely pointing in the right direction to support those pawns. And that's why we don't even see takes here from Richie. And when you run it with the engine, it's not like there's some knockout blow, but basically you can just start running the A and the C pawn. You know, this is a sample line. You shed one, but then start pushing the other one using various pins and things going on. And yeah, you can get something like this, where once again the bishops are just absolute monsters in combination with the rook. It's about +4, 5 to white here, so serious advantage. So instead, Richie tries rook b2. The bishop drops back, rook c2 played, that c pawn's attacked, it defends itself with tempo, the knight drops back here, looking to reroute to c6, and Vishy cracks on with pushing the queenside pawn. And look at the time situation as well. Vishy over 8 minutes, Richie down to 12 seconds. Just exceptional from Vishy in terms of time management. Again, this one not captured. Otherwise, the A-pawn's just rumbling through so quickly. You know, this is one sample variation. Here you lose a knight, not that you had to take, but you're in big trouble. So instead, we see knight c6 played. A5 comes anyway. This knight drops back, hits c5, but bishop e3, springing back to life, covering that pawn. So the knight comes into e5, hits the c pawn. Vishy lifts his rook, defends that c pawn in combination with the bishop. Still the a pawn's running. We see rook a8, a6 played, rook b2 looking to come back for some defense, and after rook d1, well, Vishy, he doesn't even have to hurry things. He now moves that rook a second time just to defend the other one after the attack. Rook b3 now played instead. Here Richie says, I'm not going to get the rooks off the board, I need to keep them on. We get g4 now played, and this is the icing on the cake, because that light squared bishop is coming to the long diagonal, and that just means death for black. So g5 is played, a desperate attempt at a trick, because if you capture, then there's knight f3 check, picking up that bishop. So instead, Anand just brings his bishop onto that long diagonal, and after pawn h6, we get a7, rook b7, and f4 was actually the final move of the game, because all of the black pieces are getting overloaded. You know, if you capture that one, the bishop recaptures, and there's just so many problems down here. You're threatening to take, you can't move, or then this one drops. If you go like this, well, still we take, then this one drops. There's just nothing to be done, no move to play. It's just completely over. I mean, the computer gives the best move as taking that pawn, going in for a line like this, and just shedding a knight. But even then, the c-pawn's still going through, absolutely game over. So this was then the standings at the end of the day one rapid. After 3 rounds, Vishy won 2, drew 1, puts him at the top of the table at 53 years old, ahead of Magnus, ahead of Fabi, Ali Reza, Duda, you know, so many talented super GMs. Just incredible from the veteran 5-time world champion. I hope you enjoyed this one. Do check out the video on screen if you want to see another epic game of chess, and I'll see you again tomorrow for a round 2 recap. Thanks very much for watching, and see you soon.